Alex had never seen a school from orbit before. The shuttle's viewing pane framed the Astral Academy as a ring of light wrapped around a floating crystalline spire, suspended over a violet gas giant that churned like a living storm. Dozens of smaller platforms drifted nearby, connected by thin bridges of force that shimmered as ships passed through. Psychic training fields, he had been told. Only students with sufficient control could stand on those bridges without fainting. Alex tightened his grip on the strap of his duffel bag and told himself not to think about falling forever into a planet made of poison and lightning. "First time off-world?" the pilot asked, his voice filtered through the intercom. The pilot was a broad-shouldered reptilian whose scales caught the cabin lights when he moved. "Yes," Alex answered, a little too quickly. He cleared his throat. "First time at an alien school, too." The pilot chuckled, a sound like stones knocking together. "Relax, human. If the Academy accepted you, someone important believes you will survive." That was not nearly as reassuring as the pilot seemed to think. Survive, not thrive. Alex stared out at the Academy again. The main ring rotated slowly, massive windows revealing glimpses of lecture halls and dormitories. He imagined thousands of minds inside, all tuned to frequencies he could not hear. Every file he had read, every forum post he had scrolled through on the trip had repeated the same phrase in different words. Humans are mind-blind. No telepathy, no astral projection, no psychic resonance. At best, a few rare outliers with a sensitivity barely above noise. And yet, here he was, a single human transfer student with a scholarship and a uniform that still smelled like factory plastic. The shuttle slid into a docking path, passing through a shimmering barrier that tingled against the hull. Alex's ears popped. The pilot flicked a few switches, then glanced back. "Docking in 30 seconds, Alex. When the hatch opens, follow the guide. Do not let your focus drift. The first corridor has a mild screening field. It is nothing serious, but most new students complain about headaches." "Screening field," Alex repeated. "To filter hostile intent and uncontrolled projections," the pilot replied. "Standard protocol. For a mind-blind student, it should feel like pressure." He paused, then added with a faint smile, "If it feels like more than that, tell your guide. We do not want a human lawsuit on our record." Alex managed a weak laugh, then swallowed it. His pulse pounded against his throat. He tried to calm down by listing facts, the way he always did when anxiety threatened to spiral. Name, Alex Ward. Age, 17. Species, Homo sapiens. Planet of origin, Earth. Selected major, interdisciplinary psychic theory, non-practitioner track. That last phrase irritated him. Non-practitioner. Like a reminder stamped on every document that said, "You will always be a spectator here." The docking clamps latched onto the shuttle with a metallic thud. The cabin lights shifted from travel blue to docking white. The hatch cycled open with a soft hiss. A cool draft flowed in, carrying a faint scent of ozone and something Alex could only describe as static electricity, as if the air itself were slightly charged. A tall figure waited beyond the hatch, dressed in the deep indigo robes of the Academy staff. The guide's skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, as if someone had poured liquid silver under pale, translucent flesh. 4 small horns curved back from the guide's forehead, and his eyes were a shade of blue that made Alex think of frozen oceans. A faint glow circled his head like a thin halo, flickering in rhythm with his breathing. "Alex Ward?" the guide asked. His voice felt smooth and level, perfectly balanced. "Yes," Alex said, stepping forward. His knees wobbled for a moment as he crossed the threshold. The pressure hit him at once, like walking into a thick, invisible fog. Not painful, but undeniable. The back of his neck prickled. Thoughts that had been racing suddenly felt heavy, as if each one had to push through syrup to be formed. "I am Instructor Sorrel," the guide said. "Welcome to the Astral Academy. Please remain close to me while we move through the screening corridor. Your physiology is different from most of our students, and we would prefer to avoid unnecessary complications. Unnecessary complications sounded suspiciously like embarrassing medical emergencies, but Alex nodded anyway. He adjusted his duffel bag and followed Sorel into the corridor. The walls curved gently inward, smooth and white, marked with shifting patterns of light that moved like currents underwater. Each step Alex took made the air thicken. A faint hum vibrated in his teeth. He wondered how powerful the filter had to be if this was considered mild. His thoughts tried to scatter, bouncing between fear, curiosity, and a stubborn determination not to faint in front of his first instructor. "Breathe evenly," Sorel said, not looking back. "Do not push against the pressure. Let it move through you." "How do I let something I can't see move through me?" Alex muttered. Sorel's lips curved ever so slightly. "Most students ask the opposite. You are already thinking differently." That comment did not help the pressure in Alex's chest. If anything, his brain started running faster. Thinking differently. Was that good? Bad? Did Sorel mean human different or weird different? Did staff at a psychic academy gossip about strange students? Of course they did. Faculty always gossiped. Did they compare brainwave patterns? Did someone already have a file on him labeled human anomaly, watch closely? The more he tried not to think about it, the more thoughts multiplied. A mental hydra. Each attempt to push one worry down just spawned two more. What if the screening field could read the shape of his thoughts, and the academy decided he was a security risk? What if psychic staff sensed his anxiety as a kind of static and assumed he was hiding something? What if... The pressure suddenly lessened. Alex stumbled a little, then straightened. They had reached the end of the corridor. A wide atrium opened up before him, flooded with soft gold light from a dome overhead. Dozens of students moved across the polished floor, some walking, some floating a few centimeters above the ground, supported by shimmering fields of force. Fragments of conversation drifted through the air, some in languages Alex recognized from his crash course in interspecies etiquette, others entirely unfamiliar. He received a few glances as he stepped out beside Sorel. Some students turned their heads with deliberate curiosity, eyes narrowing. Others glanced over once, then returned to their discussions, their expressions faintly bored. "He looks so quiet," one student murmured to another, an insectoid with crystalline wings that chimed softly when she moved. "He does not project at all," her friend replied, voice clipped and precise. "Not even baseline static. Strange." Alex pretended he had not heard. He could not sense the psychics around him, but he could definitely sense the weight of their attention. He straightened his shoulders and fixed his gaze on a nearby banner instead. The academy crest floated in midair, a swirling galaxy encircled by a ring of open eyes. Beneath it, in standard, the motto, "Minds Unbound." "In your case," Sorel said quietly, following his gaze, "we may need to adopt a more flexible interpretation of unbound." Alex forced a smile. "Is that a polite way to say I do not belong here?" "No," Sorel answered. "It is a realistic way to say that the Academy has never hosted a human student in the main psychic track. There will be adjustments." He studied Alex's face for a moment, as if gauging how much blunt honesty this new arrival could handle. "You were accepted because your cognitive profiles recorded during the preliminary evaluations were unusual." "Unusual how?" Alex asked. "Because where I come from, that word is usually code for problem." Sorel's eyes glowed a fraction brighter. "Your thought patterns are dense, nonlinear. Your internal associations are stronger and more rapid than standard for your species. When exposed to low-level psychic noise, your mind did not shut down as predicted. It adapted by producing more noise." Alex blinked. "So my brain panicked and started screaming." "If you wish to describe it that way," Sorel said. "Yes, most subjects in that scenario simply withdrew. You did not. You overcompensated." "And that is good?" Potentially, Sorel replied. At the very least, it is interesting. Certain members of the research faculty are very fond of interesting. Alex was not entirely sure how he felt about being interesting in a place dedicated to minds that could fold reality with a thought. He looked around the atrium again. A group of students stood in a circle near the far wall, eyes closed, hands raised. Between them, a complex holographic structure rotated, its surfaces shifting as if it were responding to invisible currents. Another pair sat cross-legged on a floating platform, apparently having an argument without speaking. Their expressions changed rapidly, but their mouths never moved. "What happens if I cannot keep up?" Alex asked quietly. Sorel's gaze softened. This academy trains students with a wide variety of abilities. Failure to master one path does not mean you do not belong on another. You have already been assigned to the theoretical track. You will study the principles of psychic interaction, resonance, and projection without the expectation of direct practice. However, Academy policy requires every student to participate in baseline practical assessments. We will see how your mind responds. Alex thought of the scholarship forms, the promises, the long, tense conversation with his father about opportunities and risks. He had argued for this transfer with a determination that had surprised even him. Now that he was here, the courage from those late-night speeches felt distant and fragile. "When do those practical assessments start?" Alex asked, mostly to keep his voice from shrinking. "Tomorrow," Sorel said. "You will have time to settle into your dormitory and review the orientation materials. Your class designation is Sci First Year, Section C. You will meet your classmates in the morning." "Psychic first years," Alex murmured. "And one human." "One human who has already defied several predictions," Sorel corrected. He gestured toward a side corridor where a series of lifts lined the wall. "Come, I will show you to your room." As they walked, Alex tried not to imagine the upcoming assessments as a series of disasters waiting to happen. He tried to think of them as experiments, data points. If he failed, he would at least know how exactly a human brain broke under psychic pressure. That thought did not help. The lift doors slid open and enveloped them in a soft blue glow. A moment later, they stepped out onto a quieter level. The corridor here was lined with doors, each marked with a faint sigil that pulsed in response as students moved past. Sorel stopped in front of one door that remained dark and still. "This will be your room," Sorel said. He touched the sigil. It flared to life, briefly matching the rhythm of Alex's breathing, or so it seemed. "Place your hand on the panel." Alex obeyed. The panel was cool against his palm. A brief tingle raced up his arm, like a static shock that did not quite discharge. The sigil changed color, settling into a soft white. "Identity imprint complete," the door announced in a neutral voice. "Welcome, Alex Ward." "At least something here likes me," Alex muttered. Sorel's mouth twitched. "The door does not like you. It recognizes you. That is a different thing, but it is a good start." He stepped back. "Rest. Explore the orientation module on your desk. It will include a preliminary overview of psychic safety protocols, as well as an explanation of what your classmates can do that you cannot. Familiarity reduces fear." "Does it?" Alex asked. "For some," Sorel replied. "For others, overthinking replaces fear with complex speculation. Based on your file, I suspect you fall into the second category." Alex opened his mouth to deny it, then shut it again. Sorel inclined his head in a small farewell bow. "We will speak again tomorrow, before your assessment," the instructor said. "Until then, try to sleep." The door closed behind Alex with a soft click. The room was small but bright, with a single bed, a desk, and a wall that could shift from opaque to transparent at a spoken command. For a moment, Alex stood in the center, duffel bag hanging from his shoulder, listening to the faint hum of the station around him. He knew, in a distant, rational part of his mind, that everything happening was extraordinary. that most humans would never see a place like this, that he should feel awe, excitement, gratitude. Right now, however, what he mostly felt was the familiar buzz of thoughts stacking on top of each other, assembling worst-case scenarios like a tower of cards. Psychic assessments. Mind-blind human in a class of telepaths. Dense, non-linear cognitive profiles. Overcompensation. Interesting. He dropped his bag on the bed and exhaled slowly. His brain refused to slow down. If thinking too much had dragged him into this situation, maybe, just maybe, the same thing would keep him afloat. It was a ridiculous hope, but it was something to cling to. Outside, the gas giant rolled beneath the academy, endless and stormy. Inside his skull, the storm was smaller but just as relentless. Alex lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and, true to his nature, started overthinking what tomorrow might bring. Alex woke to a soft chime echoing through the dorm, a sound too gentle to be an alarm, but persistent enough that ignoring it was impossible. He blinked up at the ceiling, momentarily forgetting where he was. Then the memory of the previous day trickled back. Arrival, the screening corridor, Instructor Sorrell's unnervingly calm explanations, the room imprinting his identity, Psychic Academy, alien classmates, first assessment today. His stomach tightened into a knot. He sat up slowly. The bed's fabric adjusted automatically, sensing tension and shifting into a firmer support. Alex ran a hand through his hair, noticing faint static crackling at his fingertips. The air still carried the charged feeling he had detected the moment he stepped off the shuttle, as if thoughts here had a physical presence. He stood, stretched stiff limbs, and took in the room in daylight mode. The wall that faced the gas giant had turned transparent, revealing swirling violet clouds streaked with lightning arcs miles long. He watched one flare far below, briefly illuminating the dark bands of storm. Beautiful. Yes. If he ignored the existential dread of living above a planet that could swallow a continent without noticing. The desk chimed again, this time projecting a thin column of light above its surface. Orientation module. Unread. Alex sighed, stepped closer, and tapped the holographic prompt. A warm voice filled the room. Good morning, Alex Ward. Your first day schedule is ready. Please proceed to classroom Sci-Fi for the introductory assessment. Breakfast is available in the student atrium. Time to class, 1 hour, 12 minutes. Alex muttered, plenty of time to panic, then immediately scolded himself. Talking to the orientation program wasn't going to help. He changed into the uniform provided, dark blue with silver-tipped seams that glowed faintly when he moved. The material clung comfortably, temperature regulating itself. When he glanced in the mirror, he felt a mix of pride and fraudulence. He looked like a student, a real one, just not the right species. He stepped into the corridor. A handful of students passed, some chatting aloud, others communicating silently in ways Alex couldn't detect. A pair of avian humanoids floated rather than walked, feathers shimmering with colors that shifted like oil on water. A feline-like student with 3 luminous rings hovering over her head padded by silently. A tall, horned student gave Alex a mildly curious look, eyes narrowing as if listening for a signal that didn't exist. Mind blind, someone whispered as he walked past. Alex kept his gaze forward and pretended he didn't notice. The elevator ride to the atrium was brief. When the doors opened, he stepped into a bustling space filled with scent-coated menus, nutrient platforms, and tables that reshaped themselves to match each student's anatomy. He hesitated, scanning the displays until one platform projected options with a small human icon beside it. Toast. Fruit. Something called neutral protein square, which looked like a beige sponge. He grabbed toast and fruit, hoping that eating would settle the uneasy buzz in his head. He found an empty table near the edge of the room. The moment he sat down, the surface adjusted height and angle automatically. For a few blessed minutes, no one approached him. He focused on chewing, reminding himself that humans had survived far worse than awkward school breakfasts. But quiet moments never lasted long. A shadow fell across the table. Alex looked up to see a girl with crystalline wings, the same insectoid student he had overheard yesterday. Her mandible-like facial plates shifted subtly as she studied him, though her eyes were large and gentle. "You are Alex Ward," she said in lightly accented standard. "Yes," he replied, straightening instinctively. "I am Lyris, Sci-Fi student." She gestured toward her chest, where a faint symbol glowed beneath her uniform. "Most students in our section will be curious about you. Others will be skeptical. I wanted to say something before class begins." Alex braced himself. "What is it?" "Do not let anyone convince you you do not belong." She folded her wings closer, producing a soft, chiming sound. "You were accepted. That matters." Alex blinked. He had expected caution, maybe politeness, but not encouragement. "Thank you," he managed. "You are welcome." Lyris tilted her head slightly, studying his face as if examining the surface of a rare object. "Humans possess unusual cognitive structures. I have read about this. Some psychics believe human minds are unpredictable." Alex snorted. "Unpredictable is a nice way to say chaotic." "Chaotic can be powerful," she replied simply. Before Alex could respond, she stepped back and moved to another table, leaving him with more questions than answers. By the time he finished eating, the knot in his stomach had loosened, slightly. He made his way to the Sci-Fi classroom, following glowing arrows along the wall. The door recognized his approach, sliding open to reveal a circular room filled with desks arranged in concentric rings. At the center stood Instructor Sorrel. Alex entered quietly, choosing a seat near the middle. The other students filed in, some glancing at him openly, others pretending not to stare. He caught sight of Lyris across the room. She offered a small nod. A boy with curved bone ridges above his eyes watched Alex with open suspicion. Another student, a tall girl with pale lavender skin, whispered something to her friend while looking directly at him. He reminded himself not to shrink into the seat. Sorrel raised a hand. Silence rippled through the room like an invisible wave. "Welcome, students of Sci-Fi," he said. "Today begins your first practical assessment. This assessment is not a test of strength or skill. It is simply a measure of your baseline resonance and mental stability under controlled stimuli." Alex swallowed. Controlled stimuli sounded like a polite term for mental discomfort. Sorrel continued. "Each of you will enter the resonance chamber individually. You will be exposed to a series of low-level psychic constructs designed to evaluate reaction patterns. Most of you will experience mental projection, perceptual distortion, and light feedback imagery. The responses will be recorded." The lavender-skinned girl raised her hand. "Instructor, what about the human? He cannot project." "True," Sorrel said calmly. "Human minds respond differently. The parameters will adjust accordingly." Murmurs spread through the class. Alex felt heat rising in his cheeks. Sorrel gestured to the far side of the room, where a circular door began to open. A softly lit chamber hummed behind it. "First student, Lyris." She rose gracefully and entered the chamber without hesitation. The door sealed behind her. A faint glow illuminated the edges of the chamber window. Alex watched subtle patterns flicker across the glass, light swirls, shifting shadows, though he wasn't sure if those were part of the test or his imagination. After 2 minutes, the door reopened. Lyris stepped out, calm and composed. A screen above her desk displayed a cluster of geometric shapes, her results apparently. The shapes pulsed with gentle blue light. Baseline stable, then more names. Student after student entered and exited the chamber. Some looked slightly disoriented afterward. A few held their heads, complaining of mild nausea. Their screens filled with intricate psychic signatures, spinning fractal-like diagrams. Alex watched each one with growing dread. His turn approached far faster than he expected. "Alex Ward," Sorrel announced. The room fell quiet. Alex stood. His legs felt too light, like he had been hollowed out. He walked toward the chamber, each step echoing louder than the last. When he crossed the threshold, the door sealed behind him, muting the outside world. The chamber was perfectly circular, smooth, almost featureless. The hum of energy vibrated gently against his skin, like a distant heartbeat. A soft voice floated through the unseen speakers. "Begin when ready." Alex exhaled shakily. "Right. Ready." The lights dimmed. A faint tingling crept across his scalp. Something pressed against his mind. Not a thought, not a voice, but a presence. Soft, probing. Not hostile, just curious. Alex tried to stay calm. He tried to breathe evenly, but his mind, faithful to its nature, began spiraling. What exactly is scanning me? What if this thing misreads my thoughts? What if it thinks overthinking is aggression? What if... Oh no, my thoughts are getting louder. Stop thinking about not thinking. His pulse quickened. His heart hammered. The presence pushed deeper, attempting to measure resonance, but his thoughts tangled instantly into a chaotic snarl of half-formed worries, runaway associations, and random memories. Childhood embarrassment, last night's anxiety, a math formula from middle school, the smell of toast. 1,000 irrelevant things surged like a flood. The chamber lights flickered. A sharp tone echoed overhead. "Unexpected cognitive interference detected," the system announced. Alex flinched. "I'm sorry, I can't—" The presence pressed again, stronger this time, attempting to stabilize him. His mind panicked. Thoughts exploded outward, careening without order. Every emotion intensified at once, tripping over each other. His brain didn't freeze. It overloaded. The chamber lights burst into disorganized patterns, flickering faster than Alex could track. The hum rose into a vibrating whine. A projection field attempted to form a stability lattice, but collapsed immediately, fracturing under the sheer density of noise. "Cognitive saturation detected," the system warned. "Adjusting, unable to adjust." A jolt shot through the floor. For a moment, Alex feared he had broken something vital. Then the chamber abruptly powered down, lights snapping to a steady white. The hum ceased. The door slid open. Alex stood frozen in the doorway, breath shallow. Sorrel gazed at him with an unreadable expression. Behind the instructor, the entire class was staring. His screen lit up. But instead of elegant fractals or flowing geometric patterns, it showed a single pulsing red sphere with chaotic static swirling around it. Beneath it, glowing text read, "Resonance pattern, undefined. System overwhelmed." No one spoke. Lyris looked startled. The horned boy looked horrified. The lavender-skinned girl whispered, "What is wrong with him?" Sorrel finally broke the silence. "Nothing is wrong." His voice was calm, firm. "This is highly unusual." Alex's face burned. Embarrassment twisted inside him, but beneath it, another feeling pulsed. Fear. Sorrel stepped toward him. "Alex, please sit. We will analyze the results after class." As Alex returned to his seat, every gaze followed him. He kept his eyes fixed on his desk, pulse thundering. He hadn't even tried to do anything. He had just overthought. And somehow, that alone had broken the Academy's baseline psychic test. Alex sat through the rest of the class pretending to take notes, though his hand shook every time he touched the desk. Instructor Sorrel continued explaining resonance theory, projection mechanics, and cognitive lattices, but Alex barely heard any of it. His mind throbbed with leftover static from the chamber. The students around him tried to act normal, but their glances betrayed them, quick, sharp, curious, and in some cases wary. When Sorrel dismissed the class, Alex was halfway out of his seat before the instructor said, "Alex, stay for a moment." That single sentence froze him in place. The other students filed out. Some moved slowly, openly eavesdropping until Sorrel gave them a pointed look and they scattered. Lyris hesitated at the door. She offered Alex a soft, chiming nod before leaving. Finally, he was alone with Sorrel. "Please sit," Sorrel said. Alex sat. His heartbeat hadn't slowed since the chamber incident. It still pounded with an uncomfortable rhythm, like a fist knocking from the inside. Sorrel approached the projection screen that still displayed Alex's assessment result. The violent red sphere, turbulent and pulsing as if alive. He examined it with a slight frown, then turned. "Alex, you experienced cognitive saturation." Alex winced. "So I broke the machine." "No," Sorrel clarified. "The system is designed to adapt to hundreds of psychic variants. It is supposed to be impossible to overwhelm at baseline levels." "Then how did I overwhelm it? I wasn't even trying to do anything." Sorrel clasped his hands behind his back, considering his wording. "Your mind is unusually active. During the scan, instead of suppressing excess thought patterns, you amplified them. Your internal noise increased exponentially in response to stimulus. The system attempted compensation, but your thought density exceeded its adaptive range." "That sounds bad," Alex said quietly. "It is not bad," Sorrel corrected. "It is unexpected, and unexpected phenomena are worth studying." Alex rubbed the bridge of his nose. "That doesn't make me feel better." Sorrel's expression softened. "I am aware." He stepped closer. "Tell me truthfully. Did you attempt to resist the scan?" "No," Alex answered. "I tried to calm down. That maybe made it worse." "Calming oneself is not always instinctual under psychic intrusion," Sorrel said. "Human cognition appears to favor associative over linear processing. When you attempted to control your thoughts, you created secondary loops. Each loop produced additional mental energy. The result was a cascade." Alex groaned. "So I panicked so hard the scanner panicked with me." "That is one interpretation," Sorrel admitted. A small, involuntary laugh escaped Alex. It was breathless, desperate, the kind of laugh born from the edge of stress. Sorrel did not smile, but his eyes gentled. "We will run a modified assessment tomorrow," Sorrel said. "Not in the resonance chamber. In a controlled environment without automated feedback." Alex nodded, though a knot tightened in his stomach. Another test. Another chance to embarrass himself in front of an entire room of psychics. Sorrel placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of reassurance that somehow made Alex feel even more unsteady. "For now, return to your dormitory. Rest. There is no penalty for an unstable baseline result." Alex left quickly, desperate to escape before his thoughts spiraled again. He made it back to the dorm corridor without incident, but his room felt too quiet, too bright, too aware of what had happened. He paced. He sat. He stood again. He stared out at the gas giant, watching a spiral of storms churn slowly beneath the academy. His mind replayed every moment in the chamber, magnifying each flicker of fear. The way the lights flickered, the warning tone, the whispers afterward, the lavender-skinned girl's horrified look. "Cognitive saturation detected." The words gnawed at him. A knock startled him so hard he nearly tripped over the bed. He opened the door to find Lyris standing there, wings folded neatly behind her. Her antenna-like sensory ridges glowed faintly, reflecting the corridor lights. "May I come in?" she asked gently. Alex nodded. Lyris stepped inside with delicate precision, careful not to scrape her wings against the doorway. Once she stood in the center of the room, she tilted her head in that curious insectoid gesture of hers. "I wanted to check on you," she said. "The class reacted poorly. Some students fear what they do not understand." "You mean me," Alex replied. "I mean your assessment," Lyris corrected. "Your mind produced unusual patterns. That does not make you dangerous." Alex gave a humorless laugh. "I nearly overloaded the chamber." "Humans are not documented in psychic testing records," Lyris said. "No one predicted what your mind might do. You adapted in your own way." "That wasn't adaptation," Alex insisted. "That was panic. Panic is still a reaction, she said. My species studies psychic frequencies. We train from a young age to recognize hostile projection, passive projection, and environmental noise. What your mind produced was none of these. It was something different. Different how? Alex asked warily. Lyris paused for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Dense, fast, chaotic, yes, but also structured. Not in the way psychic constructs are structured, but in the way storms form patterns. You generated too much internal energy for the chamber to categorize. Alex blinked. You're saying my panic has structure? In a way, Lyris said. Chaotic structure is still structure. Alex wasn't sure whether to be impressed or terrified. Maybe both. She stepped closer, her wings chiming softly. You must understand something. Psychic students are taught to control thought, to channel impulses, to refine projection. Your mind does the opposite. It multiplies impulses. It grows louder with pressure. That is not weakness. It is unfamiliar territory. I don't want to be unfamiliar territory, Alex said quietly. I just want to survive this program. You will, Lyris said with surprising confidence. Instructor Sorel accepted you for a reason. He rarely makes mistakes. That reassurance helped, though Alex wasn't sure why. Maybe because Lyris sounded genuinely convinced, not polite or cautious like most students had been. She moved toward the door, then paused. Alex, if anyone speaks unkindly tomorrow, ignore it. Some minds struggle to accept things that do not fit their expectations. He nodded. Thanks. Really? Lyris bowed slightly, wings chiming again as she stepped into the hallway. Sleep well. Alex watched her leave, then shut the door. The room felt less hostile now, though the knot of anxiety remained. He wasn't sure if he could sleep, but he lay down anyway, if only to rest his buzzing brain. Morning wasn't kind to him. He woke with a headache, his thoughts still echoing oddly from the previous day. When he entered the classroom, whispers rippled around him again. Less fear this time, more curiosity. Lyris waved. He gave a weak smile. Instructor Sorel entered soon after, calm as always. Today, Sorel said, we will conduct a stability evaluation without automated systems. Each of you will attempt basic perception exercises in pairs. Alex, you will work with Lyris. Alex nearly sagged with relief. At least he wouldn't be with someone who looked at him like a malfunctioning bomb. Sorel dimmed the lights. The goal is simple. Sit across from your partner. Maintain eye contact. Attempt to remain mentally neutral while your partner performs a controlled projection. Respond vocally if you feel discomfort. Alex sat across from Lyris at a circular table, her wings folded neatly behind her. She took a slow breath, her eyes softening to a warm shade. You may feel warmth, she said. Perhaps colors. Perhaps nothing at all. Alex nodded, though his heart thumped faster. Begin, Sorel instructed. Lyris closed her eyes and focused. Alex tried to stay calm. He focused on his breathing. He counted silently. 1, 2, 3. A gentle warmth brushed the edge of his awareness. Not a thought, not a voice. More like the emotional equivalent of someone standing near him in a peaceful mood. Soft, calm. It wasn't scary. Alex relaxed a little. But the more he relaxed, the louder his thoughts seemed to get. A new anxiety rose. What if Lyris sensed his thoughts spiraling? What if she felt his embarrassment? What if... The warmth wavered. Lyris opened her eyes. Alex, are you all right? I'm fine, he said quickly. Too quickly. Her wings flickered. Your resonance just spiked. I sensed turbulence. Sorry, Alex muttered. I'm trying not to think too much. That is exactly why it spikes, she said. He grimaced. Great. Let us try again, she said kindly. They tried, and tried, and tried. Each time Lyris projected calmness, Alex responded with overthinking so intense that Lyris's wings jittered with faint alarm. Once, her projection collapsed entirely when Alex's thoughts accidentally spiraled into a memory of a disastrous middle school presentation. After 10 attempts, Sorel approached. "Alex," he said gently, "you reacted to each projection with increasing cognitive activity. Do you know why?" Alex hesitated. "Because I was trying too hard not to react?" "That is correct," Sorel said. "You suppress by multiplying. You silence your thoughts by amplifying them. This may be an inherent human trait, or something unique to you." Alex didn't know whether that was comforting or terrifying. Sorel continued, "This is not failure. This is discovery. You are beginning to reveal how your mind interacts with psychic structures." "Which is badly," Alex said. Sorel shook his head. "Not badly, unpredictably." Lyris nodded. "Unpredictable minds are rare." Alex sank back into his chair. The room buzzed with students practicing quietly. He felt utterly out of place, painfully loud in a room full of mental silence. But something in Sorel's tone stayed with him. Not failure. Discovery. Maybe, just maybe, he could learn to live with the storm inside his head. Because here, in a school full of telepaths, his storm wasn't just noise. It was something no one had seen before. Alex arrived to class the next morning with a tightness in his chest that refused to loosen. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the scanner flickering, the warning tone, the way Lyris had flinched when his thoughts spiked. No matter how much he tried to breathe through the tension, his mind stayed loud, buzzing with anticipation and dread. He kept worrying about what new kind of disaster he might cause today. The classroom looked the same as always: soft lighting, round tables, pale walls shifting with faint patterns like rippling water. Students gathered in small clusters, talking quietly. As Alex stepped inside, a few heads turned, but the reactions were mixed now. Some looked nervous, some looked curious. One boy with the curved bone ridges stared with blatant suspicion, but Alex ignored him. At least no one was whispering loudly this time. Lyris waved for Alex to sit beside her. Her wings gave a gentle chime, the sound softer than yesterday, as though she wanted to put him at ease. She leaned in slightly. "How is your mind this morning?" she asked. "Chaotic," Alex admitted. "You know, normal." "It is good that you can speak about it," she said. "Hiding chaos only intensifies it." "I wish my brain understood that," Alex muttered. Before Lyris could respond, Instructor Sorel entered the room. The subtle background chatter faded instantly. Sorel carried a thin metallic device shaped like a ring, glowing faintly around the edges. "Today," Sorel said, "we begin controlled feedback training." A few students straightened with interest. Others stiffened. Sorel continued, "Feedback training teaches a student to recognize the shape of an incoming projection and respond with mental equilibrium. It is a foundational technique that all psychics must learn. For most of you, this will be routine practice. For Alex, this will be an exploratory exercise." Alex felt every eye shift toward him again. His cheeks warmed. Sorel lifted the glowing ring. "This is a resonance stabilizer. It produces a minimal psychic pattern, barely detectable to trained minds. Its purpose is not to test power, but to help students visualize emotional energy." He walked around the room, letting each student briefly touch the stabilizer. Some described feeling a gentle pull. Others felt a cool ripple of calm. When Alex touched it, the ring sparked faintly, its glow flickering for a heartbeat before settling. Sorel's eyes narrowed with interest. "Noted," Alex swallowed. "Sorry." "You did nothing wrong," Sorel said. But Alex could tell the instructor was intrigued, which somehow felt worse. Sorel tapped the ring, and it expanded into a large projection field hovering above the center table. Light swirled inside it, soft blues and greens forming spirals that expanded outward like a slow-breathing heart. "This represents baseline calm," Sorel explained. "When you interact with me or your peers, your mind will encounter projections similar to these. Today, you will learn to identify emotional signatures. Later, you will learn to reflect, redirect, or stabilize them. Alex hoped Sorrel didn't notice the way his hands trembled under the table. Sorrel raised his hand. The calming spiral shifted to bright orange waves, restless, inconsistent, vibrating with nervous energy. "This," Sorrel said, "is mild anxiety." Several students nodded, recognizing the signature. Alex wanted to laugh. Mild? That was his everyday baseline. Sorrel changed the pattern again. A red flare pulsed outward, sharper, faster, like a heartbeat accelerating under threat. "This is fear." Alex flinched. The color hit something inside him, resonating unpleasantly. His mind reacted immediately. Thoughts jumped, breath shortened, his chest tightened. Sorrel noticed and dimmed the projection. "Alex, what did you feel?" "Too much," Alex said honestly. "Too fast." "That is expected," Sorrel replied. "Your cognitive structures amplify emotional resonance." Lyris touched Alex's arm lightly. "It is all right." He nodded, though it wasn't all right. Not really. Sorrel pressed 2 fingers to the stabilizer, and the red waves dissipated. "Now we will begin pair exercises," Sorrel announced. "One student will project a controlled emotion at minimal strength. The receiving student will attempt to identify it. Alex, you will again be partnered with Lyris. Her projection style is gentle and precise." Alex tried to feel relieved, but nerves still crawled under his skin. Lyris smiled softly. "We will go slowly." They moved to a quiet corner table. Lyris folded her wings, took a steady breath, and closed her eyes. "First projection," she said. "Very small." She focused. A faint sensation bloomed between them. Not warmth, not sound, not exactly emotion either, but something like the echo of a memory of joy. Soft, bright, gentle. Alex almost smiled despite himself. "That one's happiness?" Lyris opened her eyes, pleased. "Yes, good. You recognized it without destabilizing." Alex released a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Next," she said. The feeling changed. Cool, steady, balanced, a sense of quiet composure. "Calm," Alex said. "Correct." Relief flickered through him. Maybe he wasn't completely incompatible with this world. But then Lyris frowned slightly. "I will try a more complex one. It may feel intense." Alex braced himself. "Okay, I'll try not to freak out." She pressed her palms together, closing her eyes again. Her wings fluttered with tiny chimes. The projection came slowly at first, then suddenly sharpened, shifting into something tight and pressured. Alex felt it like a band pulling around his chest. Not fear, not anger, something else. He searched for the right word. His mind hesitated. Then a completely unrelated memory surged. A late-night cram session, his father knocking on the door, asking if he was all right. He remembered insisting that he was fine while his thoughts spun like a machine eating itself. The pressure around his chest squeezed. Lyris gasped, wings flaring. Sorrel appeared instantly beside them. "Alex!" Alex snapped out of the memory with a violent jolt. Sweat dampened his forehead. His pulse pounded in his ears. Lyris steadied herself, her wings trembling. He reacted, strongly. Sorrel knelt beside Alex. "What did you feel?" Alex gripped the table, trying to speak. "Stress. Not fear. Not panic. Just stress. Pressure." He swallowed hard. Then my brain exploded. Sorrel exhaled slowly through his nose. "Lyris projected academic strain, a common test emotion. Your mind responded by generating uncontrolled associative echoes." Alex groaned. "I know. That's how my brain works." "Not exactly," Sorrel said. "Your reaction was not typical overthinking. It was amplification. The moment you recognized stress, your mind created recursive loops, each stronger than the last. Your thoughts did not merely react, they multiplied." Alex rubbed his face. "So I overloaded the projection again." "You destabilized it," Sorel corrected. But you did not overwhelm the system. That is progress. Lyris nodded. Your response was faster, but it did not collapse. It was intense, but manageable. Alex wasn't sure if manageable was a compliment. Alex, Sorel said, tone softening, you must accept something. You cannot neutralize your thoughts through suppression. For you, suppression triggers expansion. The more you fear losing control, the more mental energy you generate. That's exactly the problem, Alex said. Which is why your training will differ from others, Sorel continued. Instead of suppression, you must learn redirection. Your thoughts must move, not shrink. Alex blinked. Move where? Through channels, Sorel said, like water through pipes. That sounds impossible. It is not. Sorel's expression firmed with quiet confidence. Your mind is not broken. It is simply loud. Loud things must be directed, not silenced. Lyris leaned forward. I can help him practice. His frequency is difficult, but not impossible. Alex met her gaze. You're really okay working with me after all that? She smiled. Yes. Your mind is unusual, but unusual minds are interesting. He laughed despite himself. It was a tired sound, but real. Sorel stood. Class will resume tomorrow with new exercises. Alex, I would like you to meet me after lessons for additional guidance. Right, Alex said, bracing himself mentally. As the students dispersed, Alex lingered by the doorway. The room buzzed softly with leftover psychic energy, calm, structured, predictable. He felt like the only storm in a world of clear skies. But for the first time, he didn't feel entirely hopeless. The chaos inside him wasn't going away. But maybe, just maybe, it could be shaped. He wasn't sure what that meant yet. But the thought no longer terrified him. It made him curious. The weeks that followed blurred into a strange rhythm of headaches, breakthroughs, and conversations that Alex could never have imagined having back on Earth. Mornings were for theory, resonance matrices, cognitive geometries, the mathematics of thought. Afternoons belonged to practice, which for most students meant learning finer control. For Alex, it meant learning how not to accidentally turn every exercise into a minor catastrophe. Sorel adapted the curriculum quietly around him. Other students learned to tighten, sharpen, compress. Alex learned to flow, reroute, misdirect. When an exercise called for emptying the mind, Sorel told him to do the opposite. Fill it, the instructor said during one training session, while pale lines of light traced rotating shapes above the classroom. But choose where it spills. Think of channels, not walls. So Alex imagined his thoughts as a dozen frantic streams rushing down a mountain. If he tried to dam them, everything flooded. If he carved paths, memories over here, useless worries over there, questions down that side, somehow the noise felt less like static and more like a storm with a direction. It still roared, but at least it roared away from the fragile structures around it. Lyris sat with him almost every day after class. She helped him recognize which loops were dangerous, the spirals that doubled back on themselves until his chest hurt. She taught him to tag those loops with strange names in her language, turning them into something he could point at instead of drowning inside. He teased her that she was labeling his worst anxieties like specimens in a lab. She answered that understanding something was the first step toward surviving it. Not everyone was supportive. The horned boy, Ren, as Alex eventually learned, watched each modified lesson with growing resentment. Ren excelled in every traditional metric. His projections were sharp, his control precise. He prided himself on discipline. To watch an untrained human disrupt the Academy's systems and then receive special tutoring offended him on a level deeper than simple jealousy. It did not take long before irritation turned into challenge. The trigger came during a comparative analysis session. Sorel displayed anonymized resonance profiles on the central field, inviting the class to identify flaws and strengths. One diagram was a tidy lattice of blue and gold, a clear, steady mind. Another pulsed with aggressive spikes. A third was chaos. Dense tangles of lines, loops folding over loops, dense enough that the projection processor struggled to render them cleanly. A murmur swept through the room as Sorel revealed the origins. The first is a model of idealized balance, he said. The second belongs to a subject trained in combat projection. The third is Alex Ward. Wren let out a short, derisive sound. That is not a resonance profile. That is a malfunction. Alex stiffened. The comment was not subtle. Several students shifted uncomfortably. Lyris's wings chimed in a sharp, displeased note. Sorel's gaze sharpened. It is not a malfunction, he said. It is a hyperdense cognitive field. Such density has implications we are only beginning to understand. Wren leaned forward. Implications? Instructor, with respect, what use is a mind that cannot hold a basic projection without breaking the tools meant to measure it? Alex felt something sour rise in his chest. Before he could stop himself, he said, "Funny, that is exactly what the tools said about me." A few students snickered. Wren's eyes flashed. "If his mind is so useful," Wren said coolly, "perhaps he should prove it in a proper setting. A dual instructor, controlled, supervised, projection versus overthinking. Let us see which is more practical." The room held its breath. The obvious answer would have been no. Alex was not trained in offense or defense. He had no idea how to shield himself from a focused psychic strike. He opened his mouth to protest. Sorel spoke first. "A duel is usually a test of projection," the instructor said. "However, a controlled encounter could provide valuable data on Alex's cognitive field." Alex stared at him. "Valuable data?" Sorel met his gaze. "You will not be harmed. I will intervene at the first sign of distress. You have the right to refuse." Alex's first instinct was to refuse anyway. The second instinct arrived almost as quickly. A stubborn, exhausted fury. He was tired of being the silent anomaly in the corner. He was tired of whispers. He was tired of watching Wren smirk whenever Alex stumbled over another exercise not built for a human brain. "I accept," Alex heard himself say. Lyris turned toward him sharply. "Alex!" "I said I accept," he repeated, more firmly than he felt. Wren smiled. It was not a kind expression. "Good. Then let us demonstrate the value of structured thought." The duel was scheduled for the next day in the controlled projection chamber under full supervision. Word spread faster than any official announcement. By the time Alex arrived, a semicircle of students already clustered behind the transparent barrier, faces lit by eager curiosity and morbid fascination. The chamber was larger than the resonance room and reinforced for high-intensity practice. The floor was marked with faint concentric rings. In the center, a pedestal projected a hovering field that pulsed gently, waiting to record and display the interaction. Sorel stood between the two entry doors, robes still and eyes calm. "Wren Taver," he said. "Alex Ward, you understand the rules." Wren nodded with crisp confidence. "I do." Alex swallowed hard, then nodded as well. "Yes." "No lethal projections," Sorel continued. "No psychological trauma constructs. This is a pressure test, not combat. Wren will initiate contact. Alex will respond. I may terminate the duel at any moment." Lyris stood near the barrier, wings pressed close to her back, antenna-like ridges glowing with anxious light. When Alex caught her eye, she mouthed silently, "Move, do not resist." He held on to that. The doors opened. Alex stepped into the chamber. The air inside hummed with latent energy. Wren entered from the opposite side, posture straight, expression composed. They faced each other across the central field. The viewers beyond the barrier faded into a blur. "Begin," Sorel said. Wren moved first. He did not waste time with posturing. His eyes brightened, and a wave of force rolled across the distance, a focused projection of pressure and dominance, the psychic equivalent of a hand on the back of someone's neck, pushing down. Alex felt it slam into his awareness like a heavy blanket. His first instinct was to push back. His second was to remember that pushing back only made things worse. Move, do not resist. He let the pressure in, but refused to let it settle. His mind, already buzzing with pre-dual nerves, seized the incoming construct and spun around it. Thoughts latched onto the sensation, wrapping it in associations. The feeling reminded him of exams, of disappointed adults, of looming deadlines. Those memories linked to others, firing off in rapid succession. Instead of collapsing under Ren's projection, his mind turned it into fuel. Ren's brow furrowed slightly. The field above the pedestal flickered, showing the projection's path. Instead of settling over Alex like a coherent shape, it seemed to dissolve into a storm of smaller impulses. Ren focused harder. The pressure increased, sharpened. He layered intent, command, superiority, certainty into the next wave. Alex's head throbbed. The urge to fight back in a straight line rose in him again, desperate and instinctive. He swallowed it. Instead, he pictured every incoming signal as a set of arrows rushing toward him. He could not stop the arrows, but he could spin them, tilt them, catch them with hooks made of memories and shove them sideways. The result was ugly but effective. The arrows fell into whirlpools of thought. Instead of a direct hit, Ren's projection diffused into dozens of tiny spikes that stabbed into 100 unrelated loops. The overhead field sputtered. The clean lines of Ren's attack blurred into tangled knots. Whispers rose beyond the barrier. Ren's eyes narrowed. He shifted tactics, abandoning pressure for clarity. A razor-thin thread of thought shot forward, an attempt to slip past the chaos and latch directly onto Alex's core identity. A classic duelist move. Find the self behind the noise, grip it, and twist. Alex felt the thread snake through his awareness, seeking the clean center. Unfortunately for Ren, Alex did not have a clean center. The thread slid through one loop and fell into another. It brushed against a childhood memory and came away smeared with embarrassment. It pierced a fear and emerged fractured by sarcasm, anxiety, and a half-remembered song lyric. Every attempt to isolate a single stable idea only sank Ren deeper into what Alex privately thought of as the hurricane. Ren stumbled. From Sorrel's console, a warning tone pinged, too quiet for most to notice, but sharp in the instructor's ears. Alex's heart hammered. He realized something with a lurch. Ren was inside. Not in control, not in command, but partially entangled. Instead of Alex drowning in Ren's psychic dominance, the duelist had waded into the storm and lost his footing. For the first time since stepping into the chamber, Alex stopped trying to protect himself. He did what he always did best. He thought. He thought about everything at once. About the pressure of eyes on the other side of the barrier. About the odd hum of the chamber. About the exact texture of the floor under his boots. About every failure, every test, every late-night worry. He thought about wonder, too, the first time he had seen the gas giant. The way Lyris's wings chimed when she laughed, Sorrel's patient explanations. He did not shape those thoughts. He just let them explode outward. Ren gasped, hand flying to his temple. For a heartbeat, his eyes went unfocused. The overhead field flared with wild light, drawing gasps from the watching students. Sorrel's hand hovered over the emergency cutoff, then paused. Ren was shaken, not broken. "Enough," Sorrel said at last. "Terminate." The chamber powered down. Projection fields collapsed. The hum faded. Ren staggered back a step, glaring at Alex with a mixture of horror and disbelief. "What are you?" Alex opened his mouth, then closed it. He felt drained, shaky, but strangely clear. "Human," he said finally. "Unfortunately for you." The class burst into scattered laughter, some tense, some genuine. Even Lyris smiled, wings ringing with relief. Sorrel entered the chamber, his expression unreadable. He looked at Ren first. "Status?" Ren straightened with effort. "Dizzy," he admitted. "No lasting harm." Sorrel nodded, then turned to Alex. Status? Loud, Alex said. As usual. That earned another ripple of laughter. Then the duel is concluded, Sorel announced. No victor, in the traditional sense. Ren demonstrated exemplary control. Alex demonstrated an unprecedented defense. Defense? Ren echoed, stung. Yes, Sorel said calmly. You attempted to dominate his mind. Instead, you were dragged toward assimilation into his cognitive web. If I had allowed this to continue, you might have suffered deep disorientation. In a real encounter, such a result would be functionally equivalent to defeat. Ren's jaw tightened. He bowed stiffly and left the chamber without another word. Word of the duel spread through the academy within a day. Rumors exaggerated everything, of course. In some versions, Ren had fainted. In others, Alex had unleashed a psychic scream that cracked the chamber glass. The truth, messier, stranger, was documented in Sorel's reports and in the new label that quietly appeared in the academia database: human cognitive field, non-psychic, high density, potential applications in resonance disruption and defensive entanglement. With the duel behind him, something shifted in the way students looked at Alex. The fear did not vanish, but it changed flavor. Respect, even grudging, edged into conversations. Some students began asking him questions in the hallways. How did his mind feel from the inside? Did all humans think like that? Was overthinking a trained skill? He answered as honestly as he could. No, not all humans could do what he did. Yes, many overthought, but not in ways that melted academy scanners. No, he would not let anyone visit his mind just to see what it felt like. He survived the semester, then another. His practical assessments never resembled anyone else's, but Sorel learned how to translate his storms into usable data. Lyris remained his closest friend, and Ren, grudgingly, stopped sneering whenever Alex entered a room. In time, the day came that had once felt impossible. Graduation. The ceremony took place in the grand atrium, its dome open to display the swirling gas giant above. Students from dozens of species gathered in formal dress, academy crests glowing over their hearts. Alex stood in his designated place, robe hanging a little awkwardly on his shoulders, fingers fidgeting with the cuffs. Names were called, achievements recited. One student was praised for exceptional projection strength, another for pioneering new shield constructs. When Sorel stepped forward with a slim silver plaque, Alex's mind, for once, went blank. Alex Ward, Sorel said, voice carrying clearly. First human graduate of the Astral Academy's Psychic Theory program. Recognized for contributions to cognitive resonance research and the identification of high-density non-psychic fields. The words felt unreal. Alex walked forward, each step echoing in his head. Sorel handed him the plaque, then spoke more softly, so only he could hear. You did more here than survive. Alex swallowed. It did not feel like it most days. That is what makes it meaningful, Sorel said. The Academy trains minds to be sharp, steady, controlled. You showed us another path. Chaotic, yes, but powerful. The faculty has already drafted a new elective, Human Cognitive Dynamics, co-taught. Co-taught? Alex repeated. Sorel's eyes warmed. If you accept, you will return next cycle, as a researcher, perhaps as an instructor. The idea hit harder than any projection Alex had ever faced. He looked out over the atrium. He saw Lyris among the graduates, wings gleaming with pride. He saw Ren in another row, arms folded, expression still serious but no longer hostile. He saw younger students in the back, some whispering, some staring, some obviously wondering what it would be like to have a mind no scanner could neatly predict. His storm roared, but this time it did not feel like something trying to break free. It felt aligned. Not calm, never calm, but pointed outward, ready to be used. He thought of Earth, of the path he might have taken if he had stayed. Safe, smaller, quieter only on the outside. He thought of this place instead, a school in orbit around a violent planet, filled with minds that could bend thought into weapons and bridges and art. A place that had looked at his worst chaos and said, "That is inconvenient, but interesting. Let us keep it." He met Sorel's gaze and nodded. "I accept." Later, after the ceremony, after congratulations and questions and a long, laughing conversation with Lyris about future research projects, Alex found himself alone for a moment at the edge of the viewing platform. The gas giant rolled beneath the academy, endless and indifferent. Lightning flashed in distant clouds. He rested his hands on the railing and let his mind run. He worried about the future. He worried about failing as a researcher. He worried about students who might fear him the way some of his classmates had at first. He worried about a dozen pathways and decisions that had not even appeared yet. The storm rose. For once, he did not try to stop it. He imagined channels, questions into one, fears into another, ideas branching off like sparks. He imagined funneling the whole roaring mess into something useful, papers, lectures, new stabilizer models designed not to freeze at the first sign of human-style panic. The noise did not fade. It never would. But for the first time in his life, Alex did not feel broken because of it. He felt equipped. Behind him, in the Academy's records, his file no longer ended with observation recommended. It ended with a simple, formal note in Sorel's precise handwriting. Subject: Alex Ward. Status: graduate. Recommended role: guide for minds that do not fit standard patterns. He did not know who would walk these halls years from now, human or not, psychic or mind-blind and loud in all the inconvenient ways. He only knew one thing with certainty. When those students arrived, overwhelmed and convinced that thinking too much made them failures, someone would be waiting to show them how wrong that was. Someone who had once overthought his way through every test a psychic academy could throw at him and somehow passed anyway.